And the EU have reached an agreement on the first phase of Brexit negotiations, meaning talks can now move on to the subject of trade. As part of the agreement, Theresa May promised there will be no hard border in Ireland, but the DUP says more work still needs to be done on the border issue. And one man has died and hundreds have been injured in clashes between Israeli police and Palestinians after President Trump's decision to recognise Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Let's get more now on our top story. The Brexit agreement reached in the early hours of this morning. Talks can now move on to the subject of trade, but what does that deal mean for EU citizens' rights? Well, joining me now is the immigration lawyer, Harjap Singh. Good to see you, Harjap. Guy Verhofstadt said that he had reservations about the status of EU citizens moving forwards. Do you share those concerns?
I think moving forward after Brexit, definitely there's concerns, especially with the deal being mooted that, well, hold on, they're only going to be allowed to come here for 2 years and work and study for up to 2 years, and they won't be allowed to settle here. So I think going forward there's definitely problems. But today has been a good announcement for the 3 million people who are here, the EU citizens who were uncertain, who were used as bargaining chips, I think the key phrase is, and that they'll be allowed to stay here. And basically there's broad agreement that, yeah, that should be the case, and vice versa for any Britons living in the EU, that the agreement is, yeah, they'll be allowed to stay here. You'll enjoy the same rights as you've been doing previously.
And on the point of EU citizens in the UK and vice versa being bargaining chips, I mean, this could have been resolved a long time ago.
Should have really been. I've had over a year to resolve this sort of thing. Theresa May shouldn't have been up doing an all-nighter as it is. It's a bit like you've got an exam tomorrow and we've all done it at GCSE and A level and we're cramping it in trying to make up for work we should have done throughout the year. And I think this is no different to that. It shouldn't have taken this long, and it's caused a lot of anxiety to a lot of families and a lot of uncertainty. And a lot of people have actually gone back or decided to relocate. As recent figures show, the actual trend is the big fear of, oh, we're going to be flooded by people before Europe if we allow the Brexit cut-off date to be in 2019. That's just not true, because a few weeks ago the figures said actually that net migration has gone down, and as a result a lot of people have left the UK.
Can your reservations be resolved in the second phase because nothing is agreed up until everything is agreed?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it can. So any reservations yet can be resolved. I mean, there's been no signatures on any documents yet, so that's going to happen next week. Once there's an agreement in principle, there'll be signatures and documents. Then anything can be overturned, it can be renegotiated. Remember, this is not something that we've ever seen before. The world has never seen anything like it before. So everything is up for grabs until every single one of the countries involved says, you know what, yes, we're in, this is what we want, and this is what we agree with, here's our signature on the paper.
Everybody is saying that significant progress has been made, but everybody is also saying that there's still a lot more work to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I think, a coverall sort of phrase, meaning that, you know what, okay, we're heading in the right direction, but because we don't know what's going to happen yet, we don't know what's going to happen with the customs union, we don't really know on a lot of other matters, that, you know, what we're going to, it looks like it's a very soft Brexit. We're already having people saying that, but then people are saying, well, hold on, there's still elements of a hard Brexit. So obviously there's a lot more work to do, because all of this should have been thrashed out by now. We should not be waiting till 2 weeks or a week before Brexit to find out what exactly is going on, which at the moment it looks as if that's what's going to happen right until the last hour, until the 29th of March 2019. We're going to, you know, be waiting for that.
So all those EU citizens and British citizens living in European countries who have been feeling like they've been used as bargaining chips, what guarantees do you think that they should have from the Prime Minister, from the European negotiators moving forward?
Well, basically what they've been promised today, I mean, that they'll be allowed to stay here, they'll be allowed to work here, their families can stay here, they won't be kicked out or they won't be chucked out. I think that's the essential sort of promises that were agreed today. Also, we've had that after Brexit, the UK courts will, regain authority again. But in relation to EU citizens, the European Court of Justice for 8 years will continue to make the decisions. So if a European citizen feels he's...
That's a concession.
That's a concession. That's exactly right. That's a concession made, that the European Court of Justice will be up to 8 years, be able to listen to any case, any grievances which the UK government cannot resolve for EU citizens. So that's a big, big step. That doesn't necessarily show that we've got power back in relation to our power for the courts. It's a very big concession to make. And I think that guarantees EU citizens' rights, because ultimately, the European courts will look favourably upon their rights and will prevent them from being used as bargaining chips.
Okay, Harjap, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
14